Well, good day, folks. Welcome to the MB Wildman channel. On today's video, I'm going to fulfill the promise. So a couple of videos ago, I did one on a box that I built to get squirrels and weasels here in New Brunswick. And in the middle of that video, I showed a little tiny piece of whitish colored bait that I use for specifically for squirrels. And I also use it sometimes in the spring for muskrats. It works really, really well. And in the middle of the video, I said, "Stay tuned. I'll be showing you this how to make this bait." Well, and then I kind of forgot about it, and I did a couple of different videos. Well, every video since then that I've posted, I've had people comment and say, "Hey, where's that special bait for the squirrel video coming up?" So anyway, here it is, and stick with us, and I'll show you exactly what I use to make that special kind of bait. Listen, if you haven't yet subscribed to the MB Wildman channel, we sure would appreciate it. And go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Turn on that bell so that you get notified when we upload new content. Wouldn't want you to miss any videos. And as always, you know, we're looking for questions, comments, concerns, whatever you got. Go ahead and leave those in the comment section down below, and we'll get back to you as soon as we possibly can on those. We're on different types of social media, right? So you can follow us on Facebook, with Facebook page, Instagram, whatever you want. There's an email too, nbwildman@gmail.com if you want to drop us a line, and we'd love to hear from you. So. All right, here we go. So this type of bait is specifically scent specific. So most of you that have been around for any length of time in the trapping community know that bait is all about smell. It really doesn't matter what it's made out of as long as it smells like the right thing, because we don't want the animal to ever actually get to the bait anyway. Okay, so long-lasting baits are key, especially for those of us that want to bait our traps and not have to mess with them for a long time. So this bait I came up with, and you need a couple of ingredients here, okay? So a couple things. The first thing you're going to need is about a cup or a handful, depending on how much of this you want to make, of really fine sawdust. Okay, now this is either sawdust from like underneath my table saw is really good, or sometimes I'll even just add a little bit of water to like pellets from my pellet stove, and then they'll pop up into really fine grained sawdust. But anyway, you need a little bit of fine sawdust. Doesn't matter what it is, hardwood, softwood, doesn't make any difference. Okay, as long as you got some fine sawdust. You're gonna need, now I source this locally. I don't know where you're gonna find it or if you can, but this is baker's wax, okay? So this is actually edible wax. Now, it looks a lot like the paraffin wax that you get, but this stuff is actually edible. It's the same thing that people make, they make some candles that you put on cakes out of them, and there's some candy that they actually make that you flavor it, and it's like wax candy that you can eat. But anyway, that's what this is. Now, depending on your level of conscience for the animals that you're trapping and whatnot, you don't have to use the edible wax. You can just use regular wax. It'll work the same way. If an animal gets to it and eats it, well, I guess they're eating wax. I don't know that that's a horrible thing, but whatever. It's up to you. I like to use the edible stuff simply because I can get it local, and also because that makes my, you know, for all the anti-people out there watching this video thinking I'm feeding animals wax or whatever, then they can, whatever. Okay, and the other thing that you're going to need, and I get this, this is my magic ingredient, okay? I get this on Amazon. I'll drop a link in the comments down below as to where you can get that if you want to, or what it is. So, all right, here we go. The first thing you're going to need is a little bowl to mix stuff up in. You're going to need a heat source because you're going to end up melting the wax. Now, you can use whatever you want. Don't use an open flame. That's just my recommendation because wax is flammable at some point. So I would always use like a double boiler or just like somewhere here there's a hot plate, like just like a little warmer up or hot plate thing. And you know what I tend to use? A heat gun. It works super great. Just that. So I tend to just use my regular old handy dandy Mastercraft heat gun. It melts wax super easy. Okay, so I think that's what we need. So we got a pot. We got a little bit of our baker's wax. Now I don't use a full chunk of this. I'm only going to use about a half a piece just to do a small batch to show you here because I've got what I need already for this season on the go. So okay, so but that much of that, and you're going to need a container of some kind to smooth it out in. Now you can actually put it into an ice cube tray. I used to put them in these, like this is a nice, for those of you that are like too young to remember what this is, before you had a fridge that made ice for you. Okay, this is an ice cube tray. Actually had to put water in here and then put it in the freezer and then take it out and break it. Anyway, that's just me being silly, but okay, so I used to put them in this and then they would all be uniformly shaped, but I realized that you didn't actually need this much, and these were sometimes a pain to get the wax out of these, so I don't do that anymore. Now I just take something that's, you know, smooth, small and smooth, a tray such as this, like a bread pan or whatever, and I'll smooth it into the bottom of it. And then I'll be able to just chunk it up or break it up however I need it, okay? So that's what I'm gonna do here. Step one is you wanna melt your wax. Because what'll happen is before this chunk will get all melted, it'll almost boil, and you want it to be in the cooling down phase when you add the next ingredient. So step one, melt the wax. All right, now, I know that I sped the video up there for you so you don't have to watch me do that, but that process took like a minute, okay? So however you want to melt your wax, it doesn't really matter as long as you get it all nice and melted. Now, one of the things you're going to notice, especially if you use this baker's wax, is that it has to almost boil before you can get it to melt all the way. So right now I've got wax in this pot and it's pretty much boiling. So what you want to do is while that's kind of cooling a little bit before you dump it in your tray, you're going to mix up the next step, okay? So the next thing that you're going to need is you're going to need your handful of fine sawdust. This is way too much, okay? So you just need a handful. I don't know, half a cup maybe, maybe not even, but just again, depending on the size of the batch of this that you're going to make, you want. I just used maybe half a cup right there. So just just a little bit of sawdust in the bottom of the pan, okay? Next, you're going to need my magic ingredient, which isn't really magic and it isn't really secret. It's just something I thought up. This is natural green apple extract. Okay, so this is like apple flavor on steroids. Okay, so this is a 4-ounce bottle. I got it on Amazon, and like I say, there's a link down below in the description as to if you want to get some of this stuff, or maybe you can just buy it locally. I don't know. I couldn't. So, but this stuff is like, it's just amazing. It smells so much like apple all the time, and it's so strong, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to mix about a tablespoon of this apple extract into my fine sawdust. I'm going to mix that all around. I'm going to soak it. And the sawdust will absorb the smell and it'll absorb this extract. Now, the reason I don't put it right into the wax is because wax, it won't dilute, okay? Because of the properties of wax, you could put this in there and it'll just make little bubbles, and it won't actually dilute into the wax. So you got to dilute this into the sawdust first, okay? So I'm going to put about a tablespoon in here. My expert measuring skills. There we go. There's a tablespoon. And this stuff is so strong. I tell you what, I've been able to use this actually year after year. I keep this in. Mix it up by the way while you're talking. But I keep this in like a Ziploc bag in my pack or in my trapping stuff. And if I keep it in a Ziploc bag, even when I unbait the traps, like if there's using those boxes and it's got bait in it, or I have stuff left over from year to year, I can actually use it. The next year I open up the bag, it still smells just like apple. Like it's ready to go out again. So the stuff never goes away. So all I've done now is I've just mixed that tablespoon in there, and I've made it into kind of that. Now this sawdust, now the sawdust smells exactly like apple, like super strong apple. Okay. All I'm going to do now, most of you are following along by now, right? So all I'm going to do now is take my wax. It's in the cooling down phase now, okay? It's not hard, it's still really liquidy, but it's just cooling down. And I'm going to pour it in on top, and then I'm going to stir it around, and then I'm going to let it harden. Okay, so we're just going to dump it in here, just like that. And I'm going to give it a good stir so that the sawdust pieces, right, kind of get all around in the wax. You got to kind of do this a little tiny bit quick, because as it hits your pan, it can and will start to get solid real quick, right, before you can. So just as long as you spread this around some, all you want to do, I mean, this isn't rocket science, you just want to make sure that there's some of the sawdust that you've just soaked in that apple. You just want to make sure that there's some of it in all the wax, so that when it hardens, you've got the flavor that you want in each piece, kind of thing. You don't want any pieces of your wax when it breaks up to not have any sawdust in it is all. Okay. Some of the reasons that I use this, some of the great things about this bait, couple things. Number one, it smells like apple all the time. So you can pop this on a muskrat float, and you've got instant apple flavor, instant apple smell that isn't going to rot. It's not going to go bad. It's not going to turn brown like apples do. It's not going to eventually lose its flavor. lose its smell. It's also, the wax makes it waterproof, right? So you can't destroy the stuff, short of an animal lugging it away or eating it. You can't destroy it. And the water just sort of, it beads off it more or less because it's basically just wax and sawdust, right? And that apple flavor stuff, okay? So I smear this down. All I'm doing now, this is in here, okay? And all I'm doing is taking my spoon and I'm smashing it, like I'm smushing it as it dries. I'm just going back and forth, trying to make it even. And that's just because I'm a little anal when it comes to that stuff. It doesn't make any difference. But I want this to be basically squares so that once this is hardened, I'm just gonna cut it into strips and pop out a piece. And then I can just take that piece and put it in a trap, or I can pop out all of the little pieces and put them in a Ziploc bag for later, or whatever. And once you get it to the way you want it and it's not, flaking away on you, then you can just leave it alone and let it harden all the way. It'll pretty much take on that waxy color again that you have. Now, I have experimented in the past with, as I'm doing that smoothing process back and forth, taking a little bit of red food coloring and dyeing it red so it actually looks like the apple too. I haven't found that makes much of a difference, and it's just one extra step in the process that I really didn't need. I tried it one year, didn't seem to improve my catch rate or anything like that, so I thought maybe visual attractant or whatever, but the white seems to do just as good or just as much as the red, so I don't do that anymore because, again, like I said, it's just one extra step, one extra little cost that you don't need. So yeah, so anyway, once it's hard, just take any blade or whatever you got. Find a blade here. Can't believe I can't find a blade. That's bizarre. What did I skin with that last, I wonder? Okay, good. So just take a blade and you can cut whatever size chunks out of this you want to, right? I just use a little square, and the squares that I cut are not very big. They would be about 1 inch by 1 inch, maybe 1.5 inches by 1.5 inches, just depending on how thick it is, okay? It doesn't take a lot to do. Like when you pull this stuff out of here, just slide that out, right? So it comes out in little square chunks, right? Comes out in little square chunks just like that. And there you go. There's your bait. It's wax based, got a little bit of sawdust in it. Smells so much like apple, right? You can just pop that right in your set, and you're good to go. So anyway, like I said, I had told people I would show them that, so there it is. Anyway, let's hope this is something you can use out on your line, and as always, if you got questions or whatever, shoot us a line. So until next time, happy hunting from the MB Wildman channel.